Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 1 Kings, the second chapter. As we read in the first chapter, right, we dealt with the, King David, right, pretty much upon his deathbed. Not dead yet, but upon his deathbed. And you had Adonijah, who preemptively started to amass people onto himself as though it was officiated that he would be the next king. Of course, we found out that Solomon was actually the one who was crowned king. Okay, so here in 2 Kings, or 1 Kings, the second chapter, it says, "Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong therefore, and shew thyself a man." Going the way of all the earth means he's going to die, right? Meaning that in other words, I'm going to the place that everybody on earth eventually has to go to, which is death, right? Verse 3, "And keep the charge of the Lord Yahweh thy God, and walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, whithersoever thou turnest thyself." So in everything you do, make sure you are adhering to the ways of Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai. "That the Lord Yahweh may continue his word, which he spake concerning me, saying, If thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth, with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel." So as long as they continue to follow my ways, you'll always have a descendant that will sit on the throne, all right, of Israel. Verse 5, "Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me, and what he did to the two captains of the host of Israel." And in this case, what he did to David, in that he did these things to those two captains, as we're about to read, it says, "Unto Abner, the son of Ner, and unto Amasa, the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed the blood of war in peace." See, there's a difference in when you go to war, right, and you slay enemies or on the battlefield. That's not considered murder, for example, right? But as King David is saying here, what Joab did was he slew these men in a time of peace. They weren't at war, okay, and yet he put them to death. So that blood now had to be upon his head. Remember, the scriptures say that what was it? Blood cannot be. Let me see if I can just go and find it. But by the blood of him. Here we go. Numbers 35 and 33. "So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it." So in this case, Joab having shed that blood caused that pollution, and so his blood had to be shed in order for that cleansing to come about, right? That recompense. So as King David is telling Solomon here, is make sure you remember this, right? As you're now coming, into power, remember these things and deal with it, right? Tie up any loose ends. This is pretty much what King David was charging King Solomon with, right? It says here, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. This is metaphorical, right? But what it means is he shed the blood of war, and that blood is on his hands. "Do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his hoar head go down to the grave in peace," meaning his old head. Now, dealing with this account here, right? Starting with Abner. Remember that Abner was basically on the side of, when King David came back. I forget the name of the individual who it was that I think it might have been some descendant of Saul, if I remember correctly. But they basically had, the tribes with them against Israel, and Abner was the captain of Israel, of their host at that time. Now remember that you had this like battle between the David's army and Abner's army, and at the end of it, the brother of Joab, Asahel, ended up pursuing Abner, right? And as he followed Abner, Abner kept telling him to stop chasing him, stop following him, but he didn't listen. And so in the midst of running after Abner, being that Abner was experienced in war, Abner ended up turning on him and stabbing him with a spear. So basically Asahel ran into that, ended up dying. Okay, now I'm sure for other reasons as well, Joab didn't take too kindly to that. And so now we're going to read the account more specifically as to when he ends up murdering Abner, right? Which David was referring to this in 1 Kings, the 2nd chapter. So this is 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 23. When Joab and all the hosts that were with him were come, they told Joab, saying, Abner, the son of Ner, came to the king, and he hath sent him away, and he is gone in peace, right? Because eventually they made peace and between King David and Abner and so on, right? So now there was finally peace, but Joab didn't like that. He was upset that King David allowed Abner to come there, knowing what Abner was, had done, and then let him go in peace. Verse 24, then Joab came to the king and said, What hast thou done? Behold, Abner came unto thee. Why is it that thou hast sent him away, and he is quite gone? Now remember, Joab was the cousin, if I remember correctly. I think he was a cousin of David, right? He was the son of David's sister, Zeruiah. Okay, and so there would be, obviously, and his brothers as well, right? So there was that family-ish relation there, which is why sometimes, you would see that King David would say, like, for example, what have I to do with you, O sons of Zeruiah, right? Or X, Y, and Z, because they were, yes, they were in his army, yes, they were under him, but they had that spirit of sometimes they would be difficult to control. Okay. Verse 25, thou knowest, this is Joab speaking, thou knowest Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest. So Joab didn't trust Abner, right? And when Joab was come out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sirah, but David knew it not. So Joab took it upon himself to go ahead and call Abner back. And when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly, and smote him there under the 5th rib, that he died, for the blood of Asahel his brother. So he basically got revenge for Abner having slain Joab's brother. And afterward, when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord Yahweh forever, from the blood of Abner the son of Ner. Let it rest on the head of Joab, and on all his father's house, and let there not fail from the house of Joab one that hath an issue, or that is a leper, or that leaneth on a staff, or that falleth on the sword, or that lacketh bread. So David basically cursed Joab that day for what he did. So Joab and Abishai his brother slew Abner, because he had slain their brother Asahel at Gibeon in the battle. So there's a record, and David remembered that, right? So that's why, as he's telling Solomon before he dies, he said, look, remember what Joab did when he slew Abner, right, in a time of peace, and shed that blood. And he also slew Amasa. So now let's go to that account. Now, Amasa was also a relative of David. I believe he was David's nephew. Okay, because Amasa was the let me see if I have the account on here. See if I can find this. Let's go up, 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 up. All right, we can go over here. Yeah, he was a nephew, one of David's sister's son. Okay. All right, so it says here, and we'll read about that as we go through these precepts here. So what ended up happening with Amasa is that when Absalom, right, turned against King David, right, and all of that. Actually, I should start here in 2 Samuel 17. Yeah, when Absalom turned against King David, he ended up appointing Amasa as the captain of his host, right? As we're reading of, or we're about to read of here. So in essence, Amasa was like the captain of the rebel army against David during this time when David had to flee and Absalom was wreaking havoc and all of these things. So as we go forward in time, matter of fact, let's read this first and then we'll go to that. So this is 2 Samuel chapter 17, verse 24. Then David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom passed over Jordan, and he and all the men of Israel with him, because Absalom was pursuing David, remember. And you read the account in Samuel. And Absalom made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab, which Amasa was a man's son, whose name was Ithra, which is also pronounced Jethro, an Israelite that went into Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister to Zeruiah, Joab's mother. Okay, so Abigail was the sister of Zeruiah. Zeruiah was David's sister. Okay, which then also means that, I mean, it could mean, not that it does, but it could mean that Nahash was all of their mothers, assuming that Jesse had only one wife. But if he had multiple wives, then she could have just been one of them. So the point here being, Amasa was the son of one of David's sisters. Okay, and that would make, I believe that would make Joab and Amasa cousins as well. Verse 26, so Israel and Absalom pitched in the land of Gilead. So here we see that Absalom ends up appointing Amasa as the captain of his host. This same host that ends up coming against King David. Right? So now jump into 2 Samuel 19. Now this is after, I believe this is after Absalom was slain by Joab and King David is restored, back to king of Israel, right, to get his kingdom back. And he ends up appointing Amasa as the captain. Right, so 2 Samuel 19:8. Then the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told all the people, saying, behold, the king doth sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled every man to his tent. And all the people were at strife throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, the king saved us out of the hand of our enemies, and hath delivered us out of the hand of the Philistines. And now he is fled out of the land for Absalom. And Absalom, who we appointed over us, is dead in battle. Now therefore, why speak ye not a word of bringing the king back? So there's some that wanted to bring King David back. And King David sent to Zadok and to Abiathar the priests, saying, speak unto the elders of Judah, saying, why are ye the last to bring the king back to his house? Seeing the speech of all Israel is come to the king, even to his house. So why haven't any of you said a word about bringing me back? Everybody else is talking about it. Ye are my brethren, and ye are my bones and my flesh. Wherefore then are ye last to bring back the king? Because they were of the tribe of Judah, the ones that were loyal to David, like the one tribe, I would say. We haven't reached that part yet, but even when the kingdom splits, the kingdom of Judah is the one that ends up staying with the descendants of David, in this case Solomon, and really Rehoboam and on down. Verse 13, and say he to Amasa, art thou not of my bone and of my flesh? Meaning he's a relative. God do so to me and more also, if thou be not captain of the host before me continually in the room of Joab. So David here was going to, or he did, replace Joab as the captain with Amasa. Keep in mind, this is the same Amasa that was appointed captain of Absalom's army. All right. And he bowed the heart of all the men of Judah, even as the heart of one man, so that they sent this word unto the king, return thou to all thy servants. So now they were all good again. So the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to go meet the king, to conduct the king over Jordan. Now I'm going to pause here for a second. Right, we'll come back to this part, but just wanted to highlight what role Amasa played here, right? So now, moving on to 2 Samuel, the 20th chapter. After King David was brought back, you had another revolt, this time by a man by the name of Sheba. Okay, and this is what ends up leading into the death of Amasa by Joab's hand, which King David was referring to in 1 Kings, the 2nd chapter. So this is 2 Samuel 20:1. And there happened to be there a man of Belial, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. And he blew a trumpet and said, We have no part in David, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, O Israel. So every man of Israel went up from David, or from after David, and followed Sheba the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah clave unto their king, from Jordan even to Jerusalem. And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and put them in ward. Ward meaning like a almost like confinement, but not a prison, right? But they weren't free to go out there and do whatever. But at the same time, he wasn't, as we're about to read, right, and fed them, but went not in unto them, because I believe these were the ones that Absalom defiled. So they were shut up unto the day of their death, living in widowhood. So they were fed, they were taken care of, but David didn't give them kids, right? He didn't lay with them or anything like that. Verse 4, Then said the king unto Amasa, because he was now the captain, Assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou here present. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he tarried longer than the set time which he had appointed him. So he ended up taking longer than 3 days to gather the men, as King David had requested. And you can imagine this would raise some suspicions. And David said unto Abishai, Now shall Sheba the son of Bichri do us more harm than did Absalom. Take thou thy Lord's servants, and pursue after him, lest he get him fenced cities and escape us. And there went out after him Joab's men, and the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and all the mighty men, and they went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba the son of Bichri. When they were at the great stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa went before them. So they ended up meeting Amasa over there, right, as they were going after Sheba. And Joab's garment that he had put on was girded onto him, and upon it a girdle with a sword fastened upon his loins in the sheath thereof. So Joab's attire that he had a hidden sword, or in this case like a dagger, in there. And as he went forth, it fell out. Not that it dropped, but he unsheathed it. Verse 9, And Joab said to Amasa, Art thou in health, my brother? And Joab took Amasa by the beard with the right hand to kiss him. So he feigned as though he were just giving him a greeting, right? That's what it means by to kiss him. Typically, it would be like a kiss on the cheek as a greeting. So he used that to get in close, right? But Amasa took no heed to the sword that was in Joab's hand. So that's how you know it had to be a small sword, because if it was a long sword, he would pretty much see that coming, right? So he smote him therewith in the 5th rib, and shed out the bowels to the ground. So you can imagine, this wasn't like Joab just stabbed Amasa like a straight stab, and that's it. He probably stabbed him and then, dragged the dagger down, ripping open, his side or whatnot, as it says, to shed the bowels to the ground, and struck him not again. So it was like a one shot, one kill, and he died. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, pursued after Sheba, the son of Bichri. So here Joab ended up murdering Amasa. Now, some would say that Joab's mind, his justification was Amasa was a rebel leader, right? He was appointed as leader by Absalom against David. And now that David made him captain and told him to go and get the men in 3 days to go after this new rebel, or this new rebel Sheba, he ends up taking longer than expected. So now it's suspicious. Like, is he conspiring with this guy? Like, what's going on? And then as they're going after Sheba, they just so happen to meet Amasa here, right? So in Joab's mind, he's probably like, I don't trust this guy. Plus, he took my position. Yeah, I'm gonna take him out. So he ends up taking out Amasa here. And one of Joab's men stood by him and said, He that favoreth Joab, and he that is for David, let him go after Joab, meaning let him follow Joab. And Amasa wallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. And when the man saw, the man is not just like, it's not, it says the, but it's a man, right? One of the men over here. Saw that all the people stood still, because they were all like, you can imagine they were probably shook, like, oh shit, man, he just murdered the guy, man. He removed Amasa out of the highway into the field and cast a cloth upon him, when he saw that everyone that came by him stood still. When he was removed out of the highway, all the people went on after Joab to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bichri. So now this is the record of Joab slaying Abner and Amasa, as King David mentioned here, in a time of peace. Verse 6, do therefore according to thy wisdom. So coming back to King David talking to King Solomon here upon his deathbed, he said, look, remember what Joab did. And as it says, do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his forehead go down to the grave in peace. So do what you got to do, but make sure you take him out. Don't let him die in peace, because he shed that blood. His blood has to be shed. Verse 7, but shew kindness unto the sons of Barzillai the Gileadite, and let them be of those that eat at thy table, for they came to me when I fled because of Absalom thy brother. And when you read the account of that, they did, come and join David and, support him. And behold, thou hast with thee Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite of Bahurim, which cursed me with a grievous curse in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me at Jordan, and I swear to him by the Lord Yahweh, saying, I will not put thee to death with the sword. So as David was fleeing, he did encounter this individual Shimei, who did curse him, and Abishai wanted to put Shimei to death, but David, withheld him from doing that. Now after King David was restored back to being a king, Shimei came to him, and that's where I paused over here and said that we would come back to it. So let's read that here. So 2 Samuel 19:16, and Shimei the son of Gera, a Benjamite, which was of Bahurim, hasted and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons, and his 20 servants with him, and they went over Jordan before the king. And there went over a ferry boat to carry over the king's household, and to do what he thought good. And Shimei the son of Gera fell down before the king as he was come over Jordan. So the second he saw King David, he bowed himself and said unto the king, Let not my lord impute iniquity unto me, neither do thou remember that which thy servants did perversely the day that my lord the king went out of Jerusalem, that the king should take it to his heart. So don't hold that against him. Don't take revenge for what the things that I said to you then and how I cursed you back then. For thy servant doth know that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, I am come the first this day of all the house of Joseph to go down to meet my lord the king. So he said, I know that I went off, and so that's why I'm here. And I'm one of the first people here to acknowledge that, and basically to seek forgiveness. But Abishai, and really to save his life, because now he's afraid, right? When he cursed King David, Absalom was in power. Now David is back in power. Yeah, he's like, I better go and try to mend this stuff here. But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, answered and said, Shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? And David said, What have I to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah, that ye should this day be adversaries unto me? Shall there any man be put to death this day in Israel? For doth not I know that I am this day king over Israel? So there's no need for anybody to be put to death here, right? It's already settled. I'm back. I'm already the king. Everything is good, right? I don't need to prove anything here. Therefore the king said unto Shimei, Thou shalt not die. And the king sware unto him. So that's why King David was telling Solomon, I still remember what Shimei said to me, how he cursed me, right? But I also had swore unto him that I wouldn't put him to death, right? And that's what he's saying here in verse 8, reading it again. And behold, thou hast with thee Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite of Bahurim, which cursed me with a grievous curse in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me at Jordan, and I swear to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put thee to death with the sword. Now therefore hold him not guiltless, for thou art a wise man, and knowest what thou oughtest to do unto him. But his hoar head bring thou down to the grave with blood. Now there's a reason why he said, Thou art a wise man, because as we read, you'll find out what King Solomon ended up doing, right? So he was able to, still carry out that hit, but in a way where he was justified in doing so. Okay, it wasn't like he just got up and said, because of what you did to my father, boom, I'm going to kill you. Because there's no justification there. You just go and kill the man, right? Even though, yeah, he did curse David, but Solomon did it in a wise way, which we'll see. Verse 10, So David slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. And the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. 7 years reigned he in Hebron, and 33 years reigned he in Jerusalem. Then sat Solomon upon the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was established greatly. Now remember, at this time, because of the things that David had done and the conquering he had done, Solomon didn't really have to worry about the adversaries of, the other nations coming up. That was sort of established. And Adonijah, the son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. And she said, Comest thou peaceably? And he said, Peaceably. He said, Moreover, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And she said, Say on. And he said, Thou knowest that the kingdom was mine, and that all Israel set their faces on me, that I should reign. Howbeit the kingdom is turned about, and is become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord. So originally I was supposed to be king, but the Most High had it to where Solomon is his king instead. And now I ask one petition of thee, deny me not. So he's saying, I only have one request. All right, don't deny me this request. It says here, and she said unto him, let's see. And she said unto him, Say on. And he said, Speak, I pray thee, unto Solomon the king, for he will not say thee nay. So go and talk to Solomon, right? He's your son. He's not going to say no to you. That he give me Abishag, the Shunammite, to wife. Now remember, Abishag here was the woman they went and found to cherish King David as he was, in the first chapter, as he was on his deathbed, to see, if he could get heat, right? And so, and remember, it says that she was basically the most beautiful woman they could find within the whole land. So Adonijah here is asking, saying, look, go talk to Solomon, tell him to let me have that. Because, you're his mom. If you go and ask, he's not going to say no. And Bathsheba said, well, I will speak for thee unto the king. And Bathsheba therefore went unto King Solomon to speak unto him for Adonijah. And the king arose up to meet her, and bowed himself unto her, and sat down on his throne, and caused a seat to be set for the king's mother, and she sat on his right hand. Get her seat, prepare her seat, what's going on. Then she said, I desire one small petition of thee. I pray thee, say me not nay. And the king said unto her, ask on, my mother, for I will not say thee nay. Nay meaning no, right? Don't say no. And she said, let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah thy brother to wife. And you can tell this pissed off Solomon, right? King Solomon was not happy to hear that. Now remember, when King Solomon had first been crowned king, Adonijah ran to the horn to the temple of the altar because he was afraid. And King Solomon said, if he shews himself a worthy man, he's going to live. But if not, then it's over for him, right? So by coming here to then ask for the woman that was brought to King Solomon's father, okay, to cherish him and all of that, Solomon was not happy with that. And King Solomon answered and said unto his mother, and why dost thou ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom also, for he is mine elder brother, even for him, and for Abiathar the priest, and for Joab the son of Zeruiah. Now when he says, why dost thou ask for Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah, really what he's saying is, why just her? You might as well ask for the whole kingdom too, right? So I can give it to him and he can have it with Abiathar and Joab, and they can just go ahead and rule. Then King Solomon sware by the Lord Yahweh, saying, God do so to me, and more also, if Adonijah hath not spoken this word against his own life. So he pretty much just sealed his fate by coming to ask for this. Now therefore, as the Lord Yahweh liveth, which hath established me and set me on the throne of David my father, and who hath made an house, as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death this day. And King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him that he died. So he basically gave the order, and Benaiah went in and put Adonijah to death. And unto Abiathar the priest said the king, Get thee to Anathoth unto thine own fields. Now remember, Anathoth was, I believe it was one of those, it had to be one of those suburbs where you had a lot of Levites dwelling there, because when you read about, I think it was Jeremiah. Let's go, Jeremiah 1. Here we go. Right, it mentions here the words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, of the priests that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin. So remember that because the Levites did not have inheritance in terms of the physical land, the decree, right, was that the Lord had it to where there would be portions or suburbs within the inheritance of the other tribes that would be given to the Levites, and they would dwell there. Okay, and so it would make sense that Anathoth had to be one of those. But anyway, King Solomon then tells Abiathar here, you go over there, right, onto your own fields, for thou art worthy of death, but I will not at this time put thee to death, because thou bearest the ark of the Lord Yahweh before David my father, and because thou hast been afflicted in all wherein my father was afflicted. Now remember, Abiathar, it was Abiathar and Zadok, the priest, and these two priests helped David, right? When Solomon had when Absalom had revolted, it was Abiathar and Zadok that were, I believe, if I remember correctly, they were still within the body, right, or the court of Absalom, but they were working with David, giving him information and so on and so forth. And that's why it says here that he was also afflicted, right, wherein King David was afflicted. But why was he worthy of death? Because he had supported Adonijah in that power grab, right? Which in this case would now be sort of like treason, because Adonijah wasn't actually the king, right? It was still King David, and he wasn't appointed king. Instead, it went to King Solomon. Verse 27, so Solomon thrust out Abiathar from being priest unto the Lord Yahweh, that he might fulfill the word of the Lord, which he spake concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh. Now remember, only the Levites could be or could execute the office of a priest, but not every Levite was a priest. Okay, let's put it like that. Only the Levites could execute the office of a priest, but not every Levite was a priest. There were certain requirements that you needed to meet in order to be a priest, because then there were specific roles and things you had to know and you had to be able to do, and so on. So in this case, Abiathar was now, removed from that position to where he wouldn't be able to execute the office of a priest before the Lord anymore. And I believe he was of a descendant of Eli here. And we know, right, what the Lord mentioned when you go back and read during the time of Samuel concerning Eli, because he failed to discipline his sons, which were, committing iniquity, right, and abusing their power. Verse 28, now dealing with Joab. Then tidings came to Joab, for Joab had turned after Adonijah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab fled into the tabernacle of the Lord and caught hold on the horns of the altar. So Joab basically, when he heard this, he's like, oh shoot, I know what's coming. So he ran, right? Because he heard now Adonijah has been put to death, right? Abiathar has been deposed as priest. He's like, damn, I was also supporting Adonijah, so it's clipped. So he runs there, right? He catches hold of the horns of the altar. Verse 29, and it was told King Solomon that Joab was fled onto the tabernacle of the Lord Yahweh. And behold, he is by the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, saying, go, fall upon him, go put him to death. And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of the Lord Yahweh, and said unto him, thus saith the king, come forth. And he said, nay, but I will die here. So you're going to have to kill me right here. I'm not coming. And Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, thus saith Joab, and thus he answered me. And the king said unto him, do as he hath said, and fall upon him, and bury him, that thou mayest take away the innocent blood which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. So in order to recompense that blood, right, of Abner and Amasa, go ahead. He said he wants to die over there. Cool. Kill him there. Verse 32, and the Lord Yahweh shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he. Meaning that the recompense for his death is upon him. He brought it upon himself. Nobody's going to be held guilty for his death because of what he did here. Okay. It says here, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with a sword. My father David not knowing thereof, to wit, Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. So he slew both these men, and it wasn't with King David, though he was under David at the time. It wasn't with David's consent, because David didn't even know about this until after. Verse 23, their blood shall therefore return upon the head of Joab and upon the head of his seed forever, but upon David and upon his seed and upon his house and upon his throne shall there be peace forever from the Lord Yahweh. So Benaiah the son of Jehoiada went up and fell upon him and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. So they took out Joab and buried him. And the king put Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, in his room over the host. The room here means his position, his position. So Benaiah was now the captain of the host, meaning the army, captain of the army. And Zadok the priest did the king put in the room of Abiathar. So now that role that Abiathar played as that priest he was taken out of that role, and Zadok was put in that role. And now we come to Shimei, right? And the king sent and called for Shimei, and said unto him, Build thee an house in Jerusalem. Now, listen very closely. King David, the father of Solomon, charged Solomon to say, remember what Shimei did to me. Don't let him die in peace. You got to bring that blood back upon him. So, did Solomon say, you know what, call Shimei and just put him to death? No. He used wisdom. He said, go ahead, build a house in Jerusalem right here and stay there, right, and dwell there, and go not forth thence any whither. So he's pretty much like, he put Shimei like under house arrest, but or city arrest. So he couldn't leave the confines of Jerusalem, which was pretty fair. Verse 37, for it shall be that on the day that thou goest out and passest over the brook Kidron, that if you cross that boundary, thou shalt know for certain that thou shalt surely die. Thy blood shall be upon thine own head. So the day I'm giving you this area, Jerusalem is pretty big. If you ever leave Jerusalem, you cross this area, you know that you're going to be put to death, and it's going to be your own fault. And Shimei said unto the king, the saying is good, as my lord the king hath said, so will thy servant do. And Shimei dwelt in Jerusalem many days. So they agreed, all right, this is the case. And this is mercy for the things you did to my father, basically. And it came to pass at the end of 3 years that 2 of the servants of Shimei ran away unto Achish, the son of Maacah, king of Gath. And they told Shimei, saying, behold, thy servants be in Gath. And Shimei arose and saddled his ass, and went to Gath to Achish to seek his servants. And Shimei went and brought his servants from Gath. And it was told Solomon. So you can imagine King Solomon had spies or like eyes watching Shimei to notify him if he ever leaves Jerusalem. And lo and behold, he ended up leaving Jerusalem to go and get his servants. And it was told Solomon that Shimei had gone from Jerusalem to Gath and was come again. And the king sent and called for Shimei and said unto him, did I not make thee to swear by the Lord Yahweh? And protested unto thee, saying, know for a certain, so know for sure, on the day that thou goest out and walkest abroad any whither, that thou shalt surely die? And thou saidest unto me, the word that I have said is good. So we all agreed that if you leave this area, you're going to die. And I made you swear unto the Lord, so you took that oath. Why then hast thou not kept the oath of the Lord Yahweh, and the commandment that I have charged thee with? And the king said moreover unto Shimei, thou knowest all the wickedness which thine heart is privy to. So you're aware of all this wickedness that thou didst to my father, to David my father. Therefore the Lord Yahweh shall return thy wickedness upon thine own head. So you see how King Solomon set it up? He's like, I'm gonna, he thought of a situation and say, I'm gonna confine you to Jerusalem, but I know an individual like you, there will come a point where you're gonna leave. You're gonna, for whatever reason, you're gonna leave those boundaries. You're gonna violate that oath, and at that point in time, you're gonna pretty much warrant your own death. And that was the judgment of the Lord too. So what King Solomon ended up doing was he sort of left it in the hands of the Lord, right? Because if the Lord wanted to have mercy on Shimei, he would have made sure that Shimei, no matter what, would have stayed in Jerusalem. But the Lord put it on his mind to say, you know what, risk it all and go get those servants back. And he risked it all and he lost his life. Verse 45, and King Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of David shall be established before the Lord forever. So the king commanded Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, which went out and fell upon him, meaning he went and put Shimei to death. He fell upon him that he died, and the kingdom was established in the hand of Solomon. And that brings us to the end of the book of 1 Kings, the second chapter, right, going into sort of like the foundational part, right, the beginnings of King Solomon's reign, and the tying of the loose ends and the establishing of certain things, right, to set the stage for what's to come next. So Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha, Kudash. And until next time, Shalom.